Oh, really? Okay.
All right. Did you start the broadcast? Let's see. Yes.
Yes, sorry about that. I
Nope,
had to
that's all
take
right.
that host opportunity so that I could start the broadcast. So for
All
some reason,
right.
we didn't transfer that to you, Judge. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your patience. We had a little bit of a technical glitch going on, but good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for this Wednesday Wisdom webinar entitled The Role of the Inventory Lawyer. I am Judge Jennifer Kuyrkendall Griffin. I am moderating this free CLE today for the Solo and Small Firm section, of which I serve on the Executive Council. We are an elite section of the Florida Bar that offers a number of great opportunities and resources, especially to those who are solo practitioners or in smaller firms. Please check out our section or get more involved. As to housekeeping matters, the audio feature is turned off for participants. So if you do wish to ask any questions of the speaker or need technical assistance, please utilize the question and answer feature. All the questions will be addressed in line as there is an ability to do so from our speaker. I would like to recognize our sponsors whose logos are included on the slide for their contributions to the section this year. Florida Lawyers Mutual Insurance, Sheila Ann Accounting, RT and AP Mediation and Law Group, Gilbert Garcia Group, BriefPoint AI, and Alonzo Appeals. I encourage you all to explore the member benefits offered by the section's sponsors. Our speaker today is Patti Savitz. Ms. Savitz received both her undergraduate degree and her law degree from the University of Miami. Ms. Savitz is the Deputy Director, Staff Counsel for the Lawyer Regulation Department of the Florida Bar. She has been with the Florida Bar since 1997 and was Bar Counsel with Orlando Branch of the Florida Bar, where she handled all aspects of the bar disciplinary proceedings. She was an Assistant Public Defender in the 20th Judicial Circuit in Fort Myers. Ms. Savitz also handled cases involving abandoned, abused, and neglected children as a senior attorney with the Department of Children and Families. She has done extensive appellate work, including oral arguments before the Fifth District Court of Appeal and the Florida Supreme Court. Ms. Savitz is a past recipient of the Pro Bono Award for Government Attorneys from the Legal Aid Society and the Orange County Bar Association. Ms. Savitz is actively involved in voluntary bar associations and civic programs. So without further ado, I turn the program over to Ms. Savitz. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Griffin. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, and welcome. This is a brief overview of the role of the inventory lawyer, and I wanted to jump right in. I'm going to click to our next slide. Here we go. This is the rule, and I don't want anyone to be freaked out that there's a rule out there that you haven't looked at, you haven't reviewed recently. The rules are on the Florida Bar's webpage, but this is one that we oftentimes overlook. And it has 5 provisions to it: the appointment, grounds, and authority, the maintenance of confidentiality, status and purpose, designation, and payment of inventory lawyer. This is a new provision that the Board of Governors proposed to the Supreme Court of Florida that was approved by the court, I believe, last January, to kind of be an incentive. It does come with certain requirements and parameters. It's not automatically you sign up and you get paid type of thing, but it's to help all of us. We're now at about 115,000 members, and it's not just older lawyers that need to have an inventory attorney. All lawyers need an inventory attorney. So this is just the basic rules for you. The duties and requirements of an inventory lawyer. There's a lot of words on this slide, but it really comes down to 3 important things. You have to review and assess the files and records for the incapacitated or deceased lawyer. You have to match those files and funds with the clients, and you have to file an interim report. Sometimes there's more than one, and a final report with the court. The chief judge of the circuit that you're in, or the circuit that you're serving in, is the judge that gives you the authority to look at these files, to look at the bank records. And there's a lot of different little steps that go into it. That's why I've put this down here. But this is just a guide. There's lots of different resources there. The basic parameters are, as I said, match the clients with the files, beginning with those active files, cases where there's either active work going on in court or active work going on contractually, whatever it might be. A sub of that is files with original documents, original wills. Oftentimes there's pictures. There might be, in one case, we had a situation where there was jewelry that was being held. I'm not advocating for anybody to retain any of those original items in your own practice, but these are some of the things that you're going to encounter. And the files can be small, they can be large, and there is not, for all of you on the seminar today, there is not a set rule that says how long you maintain your files. The guidance that we give lawyers is because you have to maintain your trust records for 6 years. You should also maintain your records, your files, closed or otherwise, for 6 years, so that both those items match. The trust records are required to be maintained under Chapter 5. There's no requirement that it be a paper file. It just has to be a file that can be recovered. So as an inventory lawyer, you may find electronic paper files. You may find files that are in the cloud. You may find files that are in a storage unit, in a garage, in a variety of places. Now, the interim report and the final report, that is essentially free form. That's you telling the judge what you've done so far, what's left to be done. And then that final report summarizes everything, how many files might have been located, how many files have been turned over. And it's your final recommendation to the chief judge on what to do. The disposition of files, the disbursement of funds, and then the closure of your inventory account. Now I'm going to go to the next slide because that sounds very daunting, and I don't want any of you to leave the webinar going, "Ooh, I am never signing up for that," because as the next slide will show, there we go. With the, I hope I didn't miss one. Let me go over here and make sure. You've got the available resources, and these available resources are what guide you through the process. First of all, there's the link to the bar's website, and that's there for you. You don't have to do like I usually do, which is put in different search parameters in the bar's website to see what pops up. This link will take you to all available resources, pages and pages of inventory information. There's also an updated podcast on the Legal Fuel website that has questions and answers. And if you're interested in serving as an inventory attorney, it'll walk you through additional information from what we're getting this afternoon. And then the last link here is also on the Legal Fuel website. And that I've listed the manual and the checklist. So the manual is detailed. It's down to the nitty-gritty of why we do this, where we do this, how we do this. And at the back of the manual are template pleadings and a checklist. So it's a guide for you on how you go through things. The next slide is really about the procedures that I want to walk you through today. And normally you would say procedures and confidentiality. In this case, I prefer it confidentiality and procedures. An inventory attorney file does not get opened through the regular e-file system with the judicial circuit, the way you might file a motion in a case you're handling, or a response, an answer, that type of thing. In an inventory matter, it goes outside of that entire process and goes directly to the chief judge. And it is an administrative proceeding. So nobody can go on to the clerk's website and see that case. The important thing to know is that the inventory lawyer process does not require the bar to be involved. The bar can give you best practices and guidance. But for example, there have been cases where the incapacitated or deceased lawyer has designated someone to serve as the inventory lawyer. We had this recently happen in our Orlando office, and the inventory lawyer contacted us and said, "I've been appointed, I've got the files, I've got the trust records, What do I need to do? The order that appoints the inventory lawyer is the order that gives the authority to get those files, to get those records. So if there's no issue with that, we can provide behind the scenes guidance on how you can go ahead and handle that. Oftentimes, you might be a friend of the family who's decided to step up, or you might be the lawyer who's the lawyer for the personal representative on the trust case. So while we talk about here that it begins with the petition for appointment and the order from the chief judge authorizing, that's the traditional sense when more than just being able to serve or serving in a capacity in a related case gives you that authority. The bar is not a party to the inventory matter. The bar is a facilitator. And as a facilitator, we have the ability to provide guidance, assistance, templates, assist with the preparation of whatever you might draft. We also review your report if you're filing with the chief judge to let you know that maybe something should be phrased one way or there's a step that needs to be covered. The bottom line is all these proceedings are confidential. And the purpose of that is it involves the client of that incapacitated or deceased lawyer, and they each are entitled to confidentiality. So that's why the bar's file, even though we have a file, it's not a discipline file, and discipline files are subject to public record under the rules regulating the Florida Bar. Inventory files are not. So no one can see it, like I said, on the clerk's docket. No one can get copies of it from the bar's file. Now, if you serve as the inventory lawyer, we may get calls either in one of our branch offices or in the headquarters office where I work, who is the inventory lawyer for Ms. Savitz, and we will give that information. Now, if you were the inventory lawyer and there were, let's say, 100 client files, we could, working with you, take down all that information instead of sending 100 people to call you every 5 minutes. Where's my file? Where's my file? So that's how the bar facilitates, assists, and guides. The bar also has available paralegals that can help with drafting, staff investigators that can search for clients, because sometimes in older files you might not be able to find who you're looking for. We also have 5 branch auditors that are CPAs or certified forensic accountants, and they're able to look at the trust records. We're not expecting you to go in and look at the trust records and be able to determine whose money's there or who should get a pro rata share or anything like that. If you have trust records, we are there to help you. The bar also can help with expenses that you might incur, whether it's postage. There are some times where the files are in a storage facility. We try to get them out of the storage facility as quickly as possible, but the bar can also pay for the expense of the storage facility for a couple of months. The bar can also have a staff investigator assist in looking at the files to try to place them in different stacks, so to speak, based on what the staff investigator can see. We have staff investigators in each of our 5 branch offices. The offices are Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, Tampa, and Tallahassee. And there isn't a set time frame. There is no speedy trial. There is no filing deadline, because you're doing this on a voluntary basis in addition to your personal life, your professional life, your obligations to your other clients. Now, the bar may reach out to you maybe every 4 to 5 months and say, how you doing? Is there anything we can help you with? That's our job as that facilitator. So you may hear from us. You may hear from us more often. You're welcome to call us more often. We encounter lots of questions because every situation, every law practice is different. Every underlying circumstance is different, and they go from teeny weeny to very large. There was a case many years ago in one of our branch offices where the inventory lawyer, as he was going through the files, was really concerned that there was something going on with the trust records that went undiscovered. And, that doesn't mean that somebody would be prosecuted or a discipline file was open, but he needed the bar's help to look at those trust records to make heads or tails of who did the money belong to. And sometimes we can find it, sometimes we can't. And that's the basis of an interim report, which would say, we've looked at all this information, we've looked at all this material. It's the recommendation of the inventory lawyer that the corpus and the trust be remitted to the Division of Unclaimed Funds. So the presiding chief judge is going to authorize everything you do, and the bar will help along the way, including to when you get to the end of the case. If you've identified a portion of the files that need disposition, the bar has the ability to have our disposition vendor go to your office. You don't have to transport those files anywhere. Once you've gone through them at your office and gotten the order from the judge for disposition, we will arrange them to come to your office. They'll pick up those files and they'll dispose of them. Oh, excuse me.
Patty,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought there was going to be a break there. We do have a question for solo
Okay.
practitioners. How do you suggest getting an inventory lawyer?
Excellent question. Let me advance to one of the slides here. Come on. There we go. I got to back up. There we go. I want to walk you through, and my kids might say this is Patty splaining, but we don't use it very often unless we've got to post CLEs or we're changing an address. But first, I want to show you how it's done, because I think the question is, where do you find one? Same thing with the CLE here. You're going to log in. This is going to be your profile. And down here on the bottom left, it says inventory attorney. And the rule doesn't require that you seek out somebody, you make them sign a blood oath that they're going to serve for you. We have had lawyers that saw somebody in court, that person was super, super sharp, and maybe struck up a friendship, struck up a conversation, and that's how that person became the inventory lawyer. With a lot of solos and small firms, what I have seen is in some of those buildings where you share space, there's a mutual agreement. Like, I might be the inventory lawyer for Linda. Linda might in turn be mine, and so on and so on. And that's how that would flow. The one thing I would urge you to do is to, first of all, as a solo, and this is just my advice to all lawyers, whether you're in a large firm, solo, government, service, is be active in your local bar association as much as you're able to. But that connection will enable you to find someone who's like-minded, find someone that if the worst were to happen, that person would serve, and you can make that offer. I, in turn, would offer to serve for you. The one thing in preparing for this presentation this afternoon is that I put that rule up there for you all to see it. The rule requires that you designate. There's no punishment for not designating, but when you don't designate and you're not connected and there isn't that circle of professional and personal relationships, sometimes the bar is the last to know that something has happened. And when something has happened, then the bar searches out for volunteers. And we search for volunteers in those local organizations, in those folks that are active with the bar. We also contact the elected Board of Governors members to see if they have any interest. But my best advice is to kind of consider the nature of your practice and consider the location of your practice. For example, if you were practicing in Tallahassee, you might not want to designate a Miami lawyer as your inventory lawyer. I'm going to apologize. One of my dogs may have snuck into my office here, so hopefully he does not bark. So there isn't a true set way, but we start with the basic premise that at your fingertips, where are you working? Who are you in court with a lot? What is the area of practice you do? And that gives you at least a jump start. Now, the other thing is, with an inventory lawyer, you can designate somebody and we can see your profile at the bar. So when someone calls and says, I heard Ms. Savitz is incapacitated, I need to get my file, we can pull up that membership profile and see who's designated. We don't know if that person's going to serve or not, but we can provide that information. So if you get a call from somebody who says, the bar says you've been designated as Ms. Savitz's inventory attorney, you might be surprised. You're welcome to call the bar back and tell us, I didn't know, I cannot serve. We prefer that you call us back and say, I worked with her a long time. What can I do to help? And then we'll engage that conversation. So because you list somebody or somebody lists you, you are not required to serve. An example I can give is a few months back, we had a practitioner, I say older, but I'm older, so we have to kind of measure what older really means, who suddenly passed away. And his inventory attorney that he designated maybe 15 years ago was actually older than him. So his inventory attorney designated called us and said, you know, I'm retired. It's not really in my wheelhouse. I'd love to help out, but I'm not able to. And there's no aspersions. There's no anything, no connotation that goes with that. So if you end up being designated by somebody and you get that call from the bar, please don't worry. Please don't worry. You know, if you have the ability to serve, the bar will assist, will guide, will help out any which way that we can. But going back to the threshold question, how do you find an inventory lawyer? That doesn't have a set checklist to it. It's kind of looking at your circumstances, looking at your practice, looking at your location, and maybe having a cup of coffee with somebody, or maybe somebody you shared a case with. I hope that answers the question. And I'm gonna go back quickly to where we were. This is just a brief overview of how the file goes. I don't want anyone to think that the pleadings that go with an inventory lawyer case, inventory attorney case are kind of interchangeable as the phrase, are required. Every 30 days, you got to do this. Every 60 days, you got to do that. Every 90 days, you got to do that. The two primary things that you do at the inventory level is you have to file a report to let the judge know you've got the files, and you've got to file a report to take any action. So let's say in the interim, you've got something that needs to get done. That might require a report, a recommendation, and a proposed order. And the bar is able to help you with that. Definitely at the end of the case, that's how you conclude it, by telling the judge exactly what you've done and what needs to happen. So that, like I said, that's the basic overview. And in those links are templates. The bar also has the available templates that we can handle for you. This is how inventory attorney cases work. It's based on the record bar address for that particular lawyer. So I'm here in the Ninth Circuit today, which is Orange and Osceola County. So any lawyer whose record bar address is Orange or Osceola County is going to go to our Orlando office. And the link I've put here for you will take you to the location for the 5 branch offices, the phone number, the managing attorney, which is the chief branch discipline counsel. They each individually in their branches handle the inventory attorney cases under my supervision. So I help out when I need to, I answer questions when I need to, and I jump in and take over if I need to. Some questions require kind of a brain trust, but that's how it happens. So any of you who are on the call that your office is in Tallahassee, there's a Tallahassee branch office. Any of you who are in a remote county, I think of Okeechobee County, which is part of the 19th Circuit, that also would default to the Orlando branch. And some circuits like Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach are together in our Fort Lauderdale office. The payment for services, the Board of Governors authorized a cap of $3,000 payment, not till the conclusion. You get that order closing the inventory attorney case, and that is under parameters set by the bar. The parameters set by the bar is if the bar has exhausted every absolute resource to find a volunteer, and we call you, and you're the last up, and the only way you can serve, because your practice is busy, your personal life is busy, the only way you can serve is if at the end you tally up your hours, knowing that the maximum is what the bar is able to pay. And that's just a quick overview of the payment. It's not the way it would be like on the wheel in a criminal case. You know, you sign up, you take some felonies, the felony cap is $3,000. If you put more than the time in, you still get that $3,000. It doesn't operate that way. The rule, I put the portion of the rule here for you. It talks about the application has to be approved by the bar, and it's under the parameters set by the bar. So anyone who wants to follow up and ask me a little bit more about that, by all means, reach out and ask me. But that's the newest part of the rule that is used as an incentive, because we now, as I said before, we have 115,000 lawyers, and the need for an inventory lawyer is not restricted to our aging population of lawyers. As a baby bar counsel in 1997, one of the cases that I had was a practitioner who, busy criminal defense practice, pulled into his driveway at home, pushed the remote like we all do for the garage to come up, and had a stroke behind the wheel of his car. It was in park, but there he was. And in that case, what we did is we searched, we called other criminal defense lawyers in his circuit. We had 2 that worked in tandem. They, to me, were champion volunteers. They had known him for a long time. They stepped right up. As I said, they worked in tandem. He had boxes in his garage. He had boxes in his office. But at that particular time, he might have been in his early to mid 40s, and he was never able to practice again. But our 2 criminal defense lawyers, one was an assistant public defender, one was in private practice, they worked together to match the current clients with their files and ask for continuances where continuances were needed, determine which files were closed, and all with the bar's assistance. You know, clients sometimes are hard to find, and the bar has access through its investigators to a lot of resources. So that's one thing. If we have a case that's large, we might seek 2 volunteers to work together. We never want the process to be so daunting that you're left with the thought, oh, never again will I do that. And we prefer it to be, wow, I'm so grateful that I've got an inventory lawyer designated. And I think it's a good opportunity for all of us on this call to do a couple of things. Number one, go into your profile, as I noted before. And even if you're in government service and you're on this call, you should always log into your profile to see if you've followed the protocol for your agency to make sure whoever should be designated is designated. Or in a small firm, the question that I get asked a lot is, Ms. Savitz, it's a small firm. There's 4 of us. Every file is mine as the owner of the firm. Why do I need to designate a lawyer? Why do my lawyers have to designate a lawyer? It's the easiest way to make sure the continuity of a client's case. It's just a managerial thing to do, in the sense that if you as the titled head of the agency were incapacitated, what would your staff do? So it's important for that to be designated. And I think that, as I said, the 2 things I think that come out of this webinar, number one, who have you designated? Go in and check that. And if you've got friends that you're close to, have that open conversation. It's not morbid, I assure you. It's succession planning. It's not a morbid conversation. It's, who do you have? How did you decide? I'm trying to figure that out. That open conversation is what will get all of you thinking. And our solos and our small practitioners are such an important subset, and you do such important work that you need to make sure that there's no gap in the client representation. The second thing that comes of it is for you to take a look at your practice. And if you're like me, I'm old school. I love paper. I don't know if you can see my pad here. I am not paperless. My agency is paperless. Everything we do is on the computer. I would say I'm less paper, but not everybody is. So this is a good opportunity to look at how you maintain your records. Where are your trust records if somebody needed them? How do you access the cloud if you need to access the cloud? What did you do with your closed files? And closed files are a question that pops up, I would say, at least every couple of months. Can I destroy my files? And as I said before, the 6-year guide with the proviso of any original information, any original documents, any original possessions that you received from clients, the files under the case law are your property. So you need to make sure under the guidelines of Chapter 4 that there is no prejudice to the client in the disposition of the file. So it's kind of, we all do it as a rainy day project. We'll get to it. But that's one of those things that I think is important to come out of this webinar, and having some type of disposition service, some shred-it service, something like that. Maybe even if you are somebody who would prefer to keep your files, maybe some scanning capability where those files are in the cloud or those files are on some sort of external hard drive. They're not required to be, but at the same time, you want to be able to know that in succession planning, somebody can look at your files. Now, a question that's not on these slides for the duties and responsibilities of an inventory lawyer is, what if there is a probate case? And that's kind of it depends. My trust and estates professor at University of Miami was Professor Gaubatz, and he would laugh out loud if he knew how much trust and estates I had to deal with as a government lawyer, which makes me laugh out loud because it wasn't a preferred area for me to ever choose to practice in. But if there is a probate case, what would happen is, well, first you would contact us. You've either been appointed, you volunteered to serve. We would urge you to check with the family, and family is a good resource. Will the family house the files for you? Get them out of the office because the office is on a lease, or they want to sell the building as part of a probate. So these are all steps that cannot really be on a checklist. But to give you an example of that, we would have you as the inventory lawyer work in conjunction with the probate case. We do have situations where the lawyer who's the lawyer for the personal representative asks the judge presiding over the trust and estates case to appoint that lawyer as the inventory lawyer. So there's one focal point that is looking at the assets of the practice, but matching the client files with the client. So that's something we do see from time to time, but that's also part of succession planning. Oftentimes I know that we as lawyers are the last to actually prepare a will or a guardianship. So I guess that would be my secondary advice to everybody on the call. Let me see, what else do I have for you here? Oh,
Patti, if you could go back to that slide that you were just on.
Sure.
And I think the answer to the question, do you appoint an inventory attorney through your bar profile, or are there additional applications that need to be submitted?
You designate your inventory attorney in that tab. So when you go in, you should be able to pop that open. And let me do this. I'm a fan of, let's double check. I'm going to log into my membership. And just so you know, as a little side issue, we have to have passwords. And I assure you, if you're like me, and from time to time you cannot remember your password, our IT office at the Florida Bar does not keep a list of lawyers that have to update their passwords periodically, because I would be at the top of it. So let me log into mine, and I want to double check. Yeah. And see, it's giving me trouble with my password right now. Try that one. I think it's just a sticky keyboard. All right. So I'm in my profile, and from this profile, there's lots of different things that you can do. There's the CLE. You can post your CLE. Don't ever think to yourself, oh, my secretary posted my CLE. Go in and double check. You should be able to do that on your own. Update photograph. When I hit the tab inventory lawyer or inventory attorney, what pops up, it says my account, which is me, inventory lawyer, and it says the Florida Bar number for whom I've designated, and the member name. And I have the ability to change it or delete it. So I work for a government agency. So my division director is my inventory attorney. If I were in the state attorney's office, it might be the deputy chief that would be designated here. So yes, you can go in and designate somebody. And it also says, the good part here for you to double check, underneath all of that, it says your status as an inventory attorney, meaning has somebody out there in the world designated you? For example, mine says you are not listed as an inventory attorney for another member. And that's likely because I work for a government agency. But if you log into your profile, you will know today if somebody out there has designated you. So yes, long answer, Judge, but that button down there is full service, and you don't have to fill out an application. You can just designate someone. Now, in some of the materials that I sent, there is a form. It's a PDF fillable form. I didn't put the link there, but some of our members are still kind of older school, and they would use the PDF fillable form, and they would save the PDF and email the PDF to the bar. Your membership profile allows you to do that, but if you prefer to do it on this form, you can do that as well.
Thank you.
Now, I understand it's a lot of information that we've given this morning or this afternoon. I'll go back through the slides here and see if there's anything I feel like I've missed. The one thing I would let you all know is this bar webpage, this is the bar's homepage. Just as a side issue, I would urge all of you to have this in your favorite places on your iPad, on your desktop, on your phone, because in a pinch, you can access anything you need, like the rules, ethics, and professionalism. All the court rules are there and they're searchable, and bar staff, our lawyers and paralegals, make sure as the Supreme Court approves rule updates, civil rules, family rules, traffic rules, juvenile rules, whatever it might be, the newest rules are always going to be at that tab. Same thing with the ethics opinions. The ethics opinions are all indexed by subject. They are there. The nice thing too is your free CLE are there also. I blocked myself out of that page again. Sorry about that. So there's a lot that you can do, not just the inventory lawyer, but a lot that you can do from the bar's webpage. So as we wrap up, because I know we just have a couple more minutes, the hyperlinks should work. If they don't work, please reach out to me and I will get you that information. And I didn't want to inundate you with slides, but if you click on this about the bar, contact the branches, there's a tab for headquarters and my information is there too. So you can find me if you need me.
Patty, we do have a question that just popped up. You
Sure.
mentioned probate. As a solo attorney, are we required to have an inventory attorney and an estate plan addressing what happens to the firm's assets? Do you have any recommendations for estate planning firms that handle business matters?
Ooh, compound question. Number one, I don't believe there's any requirement that I can recall under Chapter 3 or Chapter 4 or Chapter 5. Those are the rules I deal with, which is the rules of procedure in bar matters, the rules of professional conduct, what you should do or should not do, and Chapter 5, which is the trust accounting rules. I don't recall anything that requires you to have any type of estate planning for your practice. The second part on the inventory lawyer, it's always advisable to have something, because the question we get, for example, if you have an heir designated by law or by document, the heir may say, everything of the practice is an asset, and the bar doesn't get involved in that discussion where everything that's in that office is an asset, because what drives the case for us is that Chapter 1 rule. You have a right to an inventory. Those clients have a right to an inventory and an inventory attorney. And then what was the last part of that?
Do you have any recommendations for
that
estate
was
planning
it.
firms?
No, I don't. It's not an area that I deal with on a regular basis. That's one that I would urge you to look within your own circuit. There might be board certified in your circuit. There might be folks that deal with businesses more than others. And I would say use your fingertips, ask your friends and colleagues about that, because someone who does probate and estates is different than someone who's going to do it as far as a business goes. I'm trying to think there's a lot of information, but I assure you it's not daunting, and the bar is there every step of the way, from the smallest question to the largest question. And believe me, we get them all the time. The one thing I neglected to mention is that in bar discipline cases, which is my job, I'm staff counsel, deputy director of lawyer regulation, which deals with the review, investigation, and prosecution of complaints filed against lawyers. Just so you know, the majority of them do get closed. But we do have lawyers, for whatever reason, become incapacitated or abandon their practice or steal money, leaving client files, in their office. So we do, on occasion, request inventory attorneys. Augie, I'm sorry about that. We do request inventory attorneys to help with those cases where a lawyer has absconded. And it doesn't happen very often. One of those statistics I like to share with all of you is we have 115,000 lawyers. The Supreme Court of Florida issues about 350 public disciplines a year. So the majority of lawyers are all doing excellent work, but we do have those lawyers, for whatever reason, take money from 50 people, 20 people, and then abandon those files. But those clients need to have their file back, if there is a file. They need to have their funds in trust back if there's funds in trust. So that's the rarity, but that may be, if you're willing to volunteer, you may get a call from one of the local bar offices. Are you willing to serve? This is what we've got. And in that particular case, we probably already upfront know what we're dealing with because we've had all the complaints. We've been to the office to try to find the lawyer. So that's one of those outliers that I did not put in the materials because those are more of a rarity. So I don't know if there are any other questions as we roll into the end of our webinar. I appreciate the time to present to you this morning, and I appreciate the indulgence to have one dog barking outside and one dog barking inside. I don't know how the little one snuck in, but and the PowerPoint is also available to you, and consider me and the bar as a resource for any questions.
Thank you very much, Patti, for sharing your knowledge and to provide this very important program. And thank you to all of you for participating in this Wednesday Wisdom webinar provided at no cost to you by the Sell and Small Firm section. We hope that you found this program helpful and welcome any suggestions for future programming. You will need to log into the Florida Bar Members Portal to enter your own CLE credit. The course number is 9401. Again, that is 9401 for one CLE credit, and it is an ethics credit. Again, thank you, Patti. Let me just double check. Let me see. There's who paid. So a couple more questions. Well, one is thank you. It was spectacular. And then who pays the inventory lawyer, the clients or the bar?
Nobody pays the inventory lawyer. It's totally a voluntary basis. That's why that new rule that's in that first slide was so important, because it is pro bono. It's in addition to everything else that you do, and there is no fee. Now, your expenses we can cover, like I said, postage, mileage, parking, those things that are out of pocket, and you don't have to wait to the end. So if you have to drive 60 miles and go through 5 toll booths to get to where the files are, the bar can cover that when you submit your receipt. So there is no payment. It's truly a pro bono.
And this is a very important topic. I don't know what the age of our viewers, the age span that we have here today, but I had a dear friend pass away within the last year, and he was in his early 50s. And he did have an inventory attorney that needed to take care of everything for him, but he had that foresight to go ahead and have it and follow the rule. So I hope all of you will take this very important knowledge and information and go ahead and make sure you have that little bit of required matters taken care of. But again, thank you, Patti. I don't see any other open questions, so we will go ahead and close it out for today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.